Hey guys, we're back in the shop and we're going to start on that copper fuel tank. If you've been following along, you remember I fixed up this CJ5 gas tank. We cleaned out the inside, we coated it, and it came out pretty good. Nothing wrong with it. I could use it without any trouble. You remember we kind of sloshed that one with the sealer after we got all that varnish and gum and everything out of there. And not a bad tank. I'm going to show you guys how to make one from scratch. Make a few modifications. I don't really like the cap on these. I'm going to do something a little different. Like I say, we're not trying to be original here, but it's going to be pretty original. Just going to make some upgrades. I'm going to use a different sender because I've had nothing but bad luck with the original senders that Willie's used. So we're going to use a Stewart Warner sender. We're going to use a Stewart Warner gauge. In this CJ5, we're actually going to put real gauges in there. Mechanical oil pressure, mechanical water temperature. You know, we're gonna have real gauges in there. And I really want a fuel gauge that works. And I'm not real happy with the original stuff. So we're gonna change that around. I'm gonna put a screw cap on here. These caps are always vented. The reproductions I don't really like. The originals are usually pretty messed up. We're gonna do something different there, and I'll show you that when it happens. Here's a cutaway of the tank. This is an early 2A tank. But the shape never changed. Just 2A, 3A, 3B. The actual shape never changed. I used the same shape. They just changed. You saw in an earlier video. They just changed how the side panels went. And that is what your drain and your fuel pickup look like. The fitting is missing where your fuel gets picked up. There's a fitting there. You put your 1/4-inch line to it, and then it kind of hoops over here a piece of tubing and picks up fuel from the lowest point in the tank right there. It's not a bad setup. That's what it looks like from the other side. We'll do something along those lines. It's a system that's worked for a lot of years, and we'll keep it going. If you look at the side of the tank, this side panel comes down, it comes out, and then it wraps around the bottom. And then you can see the line there. This is part of the side panel. It wraps around like that. On some early automobile tanks, the actual tank body wrapped around the side panel. It just depends how the manufacturers did it. On these, you make the side panel and you throw up a flange, and then it gets wrapped around here, and that gets soldered all around there. Your joint right here that joins the two together is just a standard lock joint, and then they groove it, and I'll show you that. We'll get the grooving machine out there, hand operated machine. I'll show you how we groove that. So there's a lot of work to do, but the very first thing is, if you want any kind of accuracy, is to make a buck. And I'm going to make a wooden buck. I'm going to show you guys. I'm going to take this right from nothing right to a finished tank. It may be a couple videos long because there's a lot to making a tank. But the first thing we're going to do today is we're going to throw a sheet of plywood on the bench here, and we're going to make a buck, and it's going to be, you know, the shape of the tank, and we'll be able to fit our pieces to it, and it'll just be a good way to ensure that we're going to get an accurate tank. So let me get the bench cleaned off, and I'll be right back with you. Okay, here's a quick shot of another buck that I made for a tank. This was a while ago. I just got holes in there so I can kind of peek in and make sure the sheet metal's fitting properly. But I just made this out of some stuff that I had. It looks like I used some maple for the sides and some oak for the keep it together. And you can see that center one cracked on me. we're going to make the new one out of plywood. You see that that's a little bit shorter than what a tank really is. And what this is for a passenger side. You get rid of the toolbox and put a fuel tank on the passenger side. That's what this buck is for. Seemed like a while ago everybody wanted passenger side tanks, and that's the buck I made for that. We'll do something similar to that, but we'll do it out of plywood so that it doesn't crack or shrink or stretch with the changes in humidity. But that's roughly what we're going to do. We're going to lay it out, and we'll go over and cut it on the bandsaw, and we'll start putting it together. Okay, here's our sheet of plywood, 3/4 inch thick, and I think you can see that red line. It's the outline of our tank. Don't just take the tank and lay it on the sheet of plywood and trace around it, because you'll be 3 thicknesses too thick or too wide. So you've got to calculate your distance inside here, figure out what the width is, and then adjust your size on the buck. So basically this needs to fit inside of your tank. So this is the dimension you want, and basically all around the inside this is the dimension you want. So be very careful when you're making your buck. Make sure after you get done cutting it out it fits inside the tank properly, and you won't have any trouble. So we'll make I think three or 4 of those, maybe. I don't know. We'll go cut them on the bandsaw, and we'll start putting this buck together. I'm going to head over to the other barn where we're setting up the wood shop. I don't like to mix the wood sawdust in with the metal shop here, so we'll head over to the other shop. I'll bring the camera along, and we'll cut these out and get them blended in real nice. Okay guys, we've got our layout on the plywood, and we're headed over to the old chicken coop barn here. And you can see I've been doing a little work on it. I got a new tin roof on there, just on this side here. It was leaking real bad, and we're trying to save this building. So I've got that on there. I put a set of doors over here, another set of doors over there, just trying to keep the weather out, and trying to get it so the snow doesn't blow in real bad this year. And this was the first building on the property. This is from the 1830s, and this was here first. And then if you look over there, you can see the house that I sided last year. That was built in 1848, and we're trying to save these old structures. So we'll head up there and see what we can do. Okay, you can see another big hole here. I've got to get a set of doors here too, and some stairs. Still walking up a ladder to come out this backside. But you remember we were sawing up these battens for the house last time, or a few videos ago, using the old bandsaw. And it's still a mess up here. We're cleaning it up as we go and trying to get things done. But we'll make a few rips here on the table saw, get a few blanks, and then start cutting them out. Okay, I just ripped up that sheet we got. I ripped more than I needed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I got 7 out of that sheet. And there's our pattern again on the top. So we'll cut out a bunch of those, and then we'll screw a few together, sand them perfectly smooth, get that radius just right, like we want it, right here, down there, a little radius over here, and then we'll get those sanded in real nice, and we'll get the width of it, and we'll put in some little stringers there to hold it together, and we'll be all set to start building the tank. Okay guys, I think you remember this bandsaw. This is that one from the late 1800s that we did all the ripping on, the resawing of the battens that I'm using for the siding on my house. And we're just going to quick cut these curves out and then we'll head back into the other shop and figure out some more where we're going to put our stringers in there to hold everything together. But I've got this oiled up, and let's give it a go. Okay guys, when making a template or a buck or anything like that, I think you can get in there and see that. I'm not sure if you can see the line or not, but cut away from the line and then sand into the line, sand right to the line. You're never going to get it perfect just with the blade, so leave yourself a little bit, 1/16 of an inch or so, and then when you take it to the sander, sand right to the line, and you'll have a perfect shape. So don't go for it with the saw, because you'll wind up undercutting, and then you'll sand too much to make it right. So leave the line and sand to it. Okay, we're going to keep moving on this. Okay, here's our one side of the buck, and this one has been sanded, and this is the correct shape. We've got a stack of them over here, and what we'll do is just put those together, and we'll put a couple screws in there. And it's hard to see with the lighting, but I'm trying to get you in there. And then we'll use this on the top, and we'll sand off all this area here, and we'll make all of them even, super smooth and ready to go. And then we'll come back in here and we'll notch out some areas on the top and on the bottom here, and we'll put some stringers in there, and that'll set the width of our tank. We'll make sure we get that right on the money, and we'll come back and we'll notch these out once they're all sanded, and then we'll have the buck made. We'll drill a couple large holes, maybe 3 large holes in the plywood here, so we can look inside there, make sure that our sheet metal, our copper in this case, is hitting the buck everywhere. And we just need some ways of looking in there and making sure things are okay. So that's where we're at right now, and I'll take them over and get them sanded, and be back with you in a minute. Okay, before we head down to the sander, just take you guys on a quick tour of this second floor of this chicken coop. A few guys have been asking for some shop tours, and I know this isn't a real good one because it's still a disaster up here, but let me just show you what I'm working with. We're missing a lot of windows, so I got to get some windows in here before the winter, keep the snow and the rain out. And I'll take you over to this side. This is where I patched that roof and put the metal roof on. You can see that I've been through the floor, and I actually fell through the roof a couple times, but had my safety gear on, so I didn't go too far. Kind of dark up there, but I think you can see one of the holes. You see the underside of the metal roofing where there's no more wood shingles left. There was wood shingles on the roof, and then some asphalt shingles. And this particular section was leaking real bad. And the ceiling is coming down. And little by little we're getting it patched up. Trying to save all the buildings. But it's like a full-time job keeping these old buildings going. But little by little we're getting the wood shop set up. And I got the heavy equipment downstairs. I've got some of the lighter stuff up here. There's some sawmill parts sitting there. Just trying to keep stuff out of the weather. But one thing that I did get going, actually just yesterday, this is a little, I guess you call this a little hallway. And that's the first floor. There's just a bunch of junk on it. This is a little elevator. And I'll see if I can take you up to the top. That sun's coming in. But way up top there is a winch. I'm kind of upside down here. I hope you can see that. But there's a winch hanging from the ridge. And this was, like I said, a chicken coop, so the feed had to get up there and the eggs had to come down. So this wasn't my idea. This was the farmer before me. He rigged up this winch system. And I think you can see it coming up now. Just got some radiators on there. And just some junk hanging on there right now. It's downstairs is kind of a mess in this area. But you can see the carriage that the last guy made. And he's just got a cable going up to the winch. Some 2x4s for runners. And a little carriage here. And I just was able to wire this up yesterday and get it working, so that helps out, because even when you're carrying, you know, a saw or something, even, you know, 50, 100 pounds or something, weaving your way up the stairs gets kind of tricky. So this is working real nice. And you can see it going up again. It goes right to the 3rd floor. There's the underside, full of cobwebs and stuff. And then it comes right back down again. So super handy to have this running now. We can start getting some of the heavier things and stuff that's just a pain to carry up the stairs loaded up on the 2nd floor here. And we'll send this back down to the 1st floor. Oops, landed on the grill. We'll leave it right there. And like I say, that's going to be super handy and save my back a little bit. And we'll be able to load all sorts of things up here. So just something I thought you guys might enjoy seeing. And we'll keep plugging away on this building. And for this year, we're just trying to keep the weather out. The snow, the rain, the animals. You know, they're just in here. We've got a ton of flying squirrels in the ceiling, and sometimes they come flying down at you. They got those huge eyes, and had one land on my shoulder the other day. But they do pop out of the ceiling from time to time. They've made quite a home up here. They just start chewing holes in this home of soap, and it's falling down in a lot of places. But there's a ton of squirrels up there, and around nighttime you could see them all leaving the building and jumping around tree to tree, and from the barn you could see everybody leaving for some nocturnal activity. But that's what's happening in this building, and it's nice to be able to keep the sawdust separate from the sparks and the metal working and the welding and stuff like that. So we finally got an area set up for that. And 1st floor, like I say, is the heavy machines. We've got the joiners down there, and and some workbenches and some heavy planers and stuff like that. But we'll keep plugging away on this one, and I'll bring you updates from time to time. But right now we're going to go get some things sanded up, and I'll be back with you in a little bit. Okay, we've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 of those stacked up together. And we're just right now checking with our square, make sure that everything's even. Check in the back here. Everything looks good. And we'll put some screws in there, and we'll head over to the sander. Okay, when I'm making bucks or something like that, I try and put the screws in it where I know they're going to come out again. Now we're going to put some holes in here, probably 1, 2, 3 holes in there. So we'll put the screws where we know we're going to put a hole, and we'll cut that right out of there. Get everything nice and square again. And just 2 of them should be enough to hold it while we're sanding. And we'll get over to the sander in just a second. Okay, that's not going anywhere. Let's head over to the sander. Okay, I put a brand new 30-inch disc on our old Oliver disc sander. This is a double disc sander. 30-inch on each side, and this is a 40 grit aluminum oxide, and it should make short work of this. I hope I can get a shot of it for you, but we're just going to sand it. Our top one is our template, and we're just going to sand everything until it's perfectly smooth with our top one here, and then we'll have everything where we want it. Here we go. Okay, I think you can see how nice that came out. They're perfectly even now. All the way around. And that'll make a perfect buck for us. And before we unscrew those, we're going to come in a few places, like I said, and we'll take little notches out, you know, something like that. And that's where our piece of wood will fasten all these together. So maybe we'll do 2 on the top, or 3 on the top and 2 on the bottom. But we'll cut these while they're all together so they're all in the same spot. We'll run back over to the other barn there and get those cut. And next time you see it, it'll be a complete buck. And we'll be shaping some copper around it. And I think we're going to end the video here. I don't want to make them too long and bore you guys to death with just making the buck. Next video we're going to be moving some copper around on here and flanging the edges, and I'll show you how the whole thing comes together. I'll show you what we're going to use for a cap and everything like that, and show you all the pieces I've rounded up so far. And we'll start making this tank. So if you like the video, like I always say, hit the like button. Appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel if you like what you're seeing. And thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next video.